Hello. Sorry, I'm just hey, cool, excellent, excellent. Right. It's probably going to be a minute or so, guys. Um, I'm just eating. Let me open the windows. It's freaking hot. I was cooking and it's just got really hot. You can probably see the sweat coming off me. My friend's not in here yet. Neither's anyone else, to be honest. But anyone watching back on the video, so you know, there's no one here yet. She is at present having some freaking needles stabbed into her head. So I'm just making sure that I'm here for when she's back, and then we'll see what she wants us to be doing. Obviously gaming. See what she wants me to play. Maybe a bit of COD for a bit. She is a gamer, so this is also part of like getting her a fix. But I'm eating at the minute, so we might be reacting to something first. Or I'll be watching something first. Whilst I wait for someone to come in. Normally I would record this alongside so that we've got a better quality for me to release afterwards, but I figured I would just see how this looks. Let this run, let it release, see how it looks, and then maybe next time get on the recording. I was tempted. Uno momento. But maybe just do it anyway. Let me just clear up some space. So I'm just playing at the computer. Oh, that might be me. Or maybe not. Feel free to jump up in the chat. I don't think I've got any locks or anything in place on it. But it has most definitely helped with storage space. So what is that regarded? Actually, no. I think, well, I'm eating anyway. So, hi, whoever's in, hi. Feel free to jump up in the chat. It's just me eating at the minute. Unless that is, I don't think I've got any, limitations. Oh, what was all that about? Limitation. Well, the chat set. We might get joined. Hello, how are you anyway? I'm going to eat. I don't know what's the view. You know, without getting stung. Whilst I eat this food. I'm only live because we're literally waiting for my friend to come in. She is currently, last I heard about like half an hour ago, she was waiting to go and have some needles stuck in her head. She's having some issues, so we're gonna waiting for her to show up before we start anything. Plus I'm eating, you know. No, I did not just dump some pasta on the friggin' floor, which I'm gonna have to deal with because I'll make a mess. I'll leave it there and then I'll squash it into the floor or something. So grab something to fucking throw the crap into. Maybe a couple of bits of pasta. It's not the end of the world. I went and put that on, like, and I'm not even frigging listening to anything. Oh my god. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't even frigging realise that the mic was so frigging far away from my face. So we kind of lost the concurrent viewer, probably because they couldn't frigging hear me. So I apologise way ahead of time. So the viewer was Daisy. Maybe. No, it hasn't shown me. It hasn't shown me yet. But I see a message. I don't know. Maybe you have to be in chat for a bit. Is there any like message on there saying that you have to be in chat for a bit before we get started? I don't think I've got any rules like that on. But I don't know. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. See what it's saying. It says I'm live. No, I've not had it yet. Give me a moment, but that could just be my chat. So actually, just give me a moment. Maybe I can bring it up a little easier this way. I switch over to there. See. Yeah, it was my app that was causing the problem. Now I see you. That seems to be the best option. I just bring the yeah. It shrinks the chat down a little bit, like, but oh, that's better. There's a slight delay to me as well, just so you know. But welcome, Daisy. Welcome. This is for you. We'll get onto some gaming in a bit. I'm just literally eating. I just bought some chorizo, and after I've had pasta and stuff, I do still have a nice bit of spicy German sausage to chew on. Always nice. But I see you. I see that I'm here. See now I can see it. I think there's just something going on with the. Yeah, there's just something going on with that. It weren't happy. Oh, Streamlabs chat. Oh, I see you in Streamlabs chat. Right, okay. Let me get rid of that then. I'll throw that down there. Stream looks alright though. Sorry guys, it is 1080p, but it is what it is. We just join Daisy in the chat. You never know. We might get joined by someone. Daisy, you never know. Put the other account in, I'll just drop that down. Now, but yeah, now I can see the chat properly. It just wasn't showing. It just wasn't showing it. I'm trying to get the chat as big as I can because this is the camera. This is the chat. So you know, if I'm looking here, I'm looking at the chat. If I'm looking at you. Here's looking at you, kid. Right. Yeah. Let me finish eating, man. Let me just eat real quick. Let me just eat real quick. You're just gonna have to deal with slightly lower audio whilst I eat, because I kind of need it out of the way, you know. But what should we watch? We're gonna watch something whilst I'm eating. We're gonna do some reacting or something. I'll find something. Let me have a goosey gander. See if there's something that we can watch, react to. Yes. See, but I'm thinking. I definitely don't want to take away from. We are going to watch a. Hopefully I don't get no major copyrights or anything like. But we're gonna watch a Colby Chris episode. I'm gonna find something a little older. Yeah, that'll do. One just popped up. I use it. I watched that. I watch Colby Chris quite a lot. I think she's good. Like, and now she does these sort of in depths on like horror and stuff. It's even better. So let me just this one's, look, she's massive, so she's not going to see any impact from me viewing her video from 3 weeks ago. So, and I've followed Chris for many years. Everybody go see Call Me Chris. She's freaking awesome. She started off really on TikTok with her little characters and her little skits, and they were fucking funny as fuck. And then she moved over to YouTube. She does like test products. Her and her fella have got like a sweetie company. Looks like really nice stuff, to be honest. Caleb of Umperville is his channel name. Go at him as well. He's weird and wonderful. And yeah, we'll probably watch this video. Hopefully, won't get stung too much. I'll have to make it smaller than me, but let's move me about a little. I know you'd be devastated, Daisy. I know you'd be devastated, but we've got to shrink me down a little bit. Otherwise, your phone's just not going to show any of the video. Although, in all fairness, it's one of those videos that's sort of like she's talking about it. So this is a video about the horrors of the Foxen Hollow Farm serial killer. It says that the stream is not for kids. So whilst I eat and you chat, how are your needles in your head anyway? How are your needles in your head? How's that going for you? If you see me pause, it's just because I'm waiting for you, and I know that there's a delay. What's the damn it for? What did you damn it, Beavis? What did you do? What did you do, woman? You're number one for something. Is that chatter? Oh, top fans. You're my number one fan. God damn, woman. God damn. But I think I could have it a little bit bigger than that. It needs to be like, oh, I bet. But without further ado, we'll start playing this, and then I'll probably put a bit of COD on, or unless you want to watch something else. That it is you that I'm here. Oh right, it is you that I'm here to entertain. So if we get joined. But
Bones. In the quiet woods behind a wealthy Indiana estate, investigators made a grisly discovery. Scattered fragments of human remains buried beneath the leaves, burned, broken, and forgotten. What they uncovered in that soil
can you hear it?
would
Okay.
unravel the facade
Or is it too
of a
quiet?
man
Or
who, by all appearances, had it all. A thriving business.
he looks like a creep. I'm not gonna lie.
Hidden among the trees. But behind closed doors, something unthinkable was happening. He was charming, respected, a devoted
Why is it always the
husband,
creepy
and
looking one?
he was stalking young
Like,
men
I don't
and
get it.
dragging
Why?
them into the dark. This is
Why is
not
the
just the
creepy
story of a killer. It's a story of an entire
Let me turn this
community
up so
was
that I can
hurt.
that's
A
better.
survivor
I
who
can be away from
refused
it a bit
to
now.
stay silent, and the horrifying truth buried beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life. This is a story of Herb Baumeister.
Can you guys hear everything already? All right, like, because you're about to be called a freak. Hopefully it's
Conspiracy, cults, serial killers, and murder. All things that I love to consume, and I know you do too. You sick, twisted, beautiful, intellectually minded freak. I sounded like a bird. Sorry about that.
Right.
Yeah, today we're getting into a big case, a case that was highly recommended. I saw dozens of comments requesting
your,
this case.
hospital
It has
tea
taken
tonight?
a while to
they
get
give
done,
you?
but we are here. It is absolutely horrifying. So trigger warning there. But without further ado, let's
Chris,
unbuckle
it's
our
always
seatbelts,
friggin'
go walk out down
horrifying,
the
man.
highway, slam on the brakes, and bust through this windshield into this horrifying case together. So Herbert Richard Baumeister was born in Indianapolis on April 7th, 1947, and he was the oldest of 4 children in a
So you know the
comfortable
delay's not
middle-class
intentional.
family. And his
But I know
father,
it's
Dr.
that.
Herbert E. Baumeister, was an
only about 30
anesthesiologist,
seconds
and his
or
mother, Elizabeth, was a homemaker. So outwardly, Herb's early childhood seemed pretty normal. But as he entered adolescence, disturbing behavior began to emerge, like we see with many serial killers in their early adolescence, just doing the most
Weird shit.
So
Yeah.
classmates and teachers
always some
noted that
fucked up
young
shit.
Herb developed morbid fascinations. One being he was intensely curious about the taste of human urine. Yeah, we're really getting into it really quick with this one.
Why? What is it about human piss that's going to make you want to drink it, man? Now, I'll admit there's been occasions where my piss has smelled like sugar puffs, almost. But, no. 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 How about you, Daisy? Did you ever, when you were younger, get the urge to find out what piss tastes like? Just kind of curious, you know. Yeah, so the chat saying, yeah, like I was looking down there. That yes, I fixed the chat. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me properly. Like I've have to pump it up a bit so that you can hear me because it's at a bit of distance. Let me make it a little louder for you now, baby. Absolutely not. What they feeding you anyway? I've I've got chuck it in a pad and pasta. Basically, my mum grows loads of veg and that. My mum grows veg, and obviously in season stuff comes through. And she's grown a lot of tomatoes and courgettes and stuff, and she's been like drip feeding me tomatoes for the last good month or so. But she's been giving me courgette. Oh, a jacket potato. Oh, what did you have in it? I do like a jacket potato. So yeah, anyway, I had a load of tomatoes and some courgettes in the fridge. So I went to the shop, got some chorizo and some spicy German sausage, and chopped everything up. Fried up the chorizo so that I could use the oils off it to fry the courgette, and then finish off the sauce with the tomatoes. Just chop them up, throw them in there, let them just melt to nothing, and then mix it into pasta. It's alright, like. It's better than I expected it to be. Can't lie, nice jacket potato sounds good though. I do love a good jacket potato. Now guys, anyone who's watching the stream back or whatever, I'd just like to let you know that yes, this stream's going to have some reaction videos in it. It's also going to have some gaming in it. And yes, this stream, I'm not the best with my language. I will try and keep it as non-colourful as possible. And even though I do attempt not to, and I will try and do it as little as possible, but I probably will smoke at some point on this stream, probably after I've eaten now. So if you find any of that sort of stuff offensive, and you find just men being men offensive, this is probably not the stream for you. That being said, if you would like to come and keep my friend Daisy here company while she's stuck in bed in hospital, feel free. When it gets to the gaming portion, she's probably going to get some a level of free reign into what she wants to watch me play, or attempt to play. But don't think the girl's not got gaming credentials, you know. She plays COD most nights. She gets on the grind with the rest of them. But she's also played Space Marines and stuff like that, and she enjoyed it, so big up Daisy for being a gamer. See, if she wasn't stuck in hospital right now, she'd be trying to convince her daughter to get into bed, and firing up COD. Also, your Helldivers too. Yeah, we can jump into Helldivers if you want. You can have a look at the game. That's fine. I haven't done it up, but I've looked at it. I've had a few drops and stuff. It's genuinely fun. It's genuinely fun. I'll make you blush. What with Helldivers? It's for democracy, not for blushing. I love Helldivers. But I will say it's the kind of game that is best played with your friends. And didn't have any to play with, so it's one of those things. Look, I don't want you to feel sorry for me if you're watching back. It is one of those things. Like, what can you do? You know, what can you do? Look, I'm not here to create some fucking like sob story to make you feel sorry for me. I don't care. You don't have to feel sorry for me for nothing. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for Daisy. Oh no, don't worry. Don't worry, that's the whole point though, Daisy, you know? We move this out the way of my hands. Alright, I suppose we should probably get back to the video. At least no one can say that I'm... Let me just get this so it'll be out of my way, but of a useful position. That is not a useful position. Do you know what? One of these days, yeah, I'll get the hang of this. I mean, I don't necessarily need to see Chris either, for the same reasons that no one else needs to, but, you know, when you're watching a video, it's like you see it, innit?
You know, buckle up. And also, you guessed it,
but as long as it's, you know, loud enough,
with dead animals. Just
hopefully you can hear her fine.
In one incident, he placed a dead crow on a teacher's desk at North Central High School. Kid was up 2 ways to Sunday. And on another occasion, he urinated on his teacher's desk, just shocking his entire classroom. It's like he needed that shock factor. He needed to be the center of attention in the most morbid, up ways. And such bizarre antics went far beyond typical teenage rebellion and hinted at a deeply, deeply troubled mind. I mean, we had some jokesters in high school, but nobody was pissing on the teachers' desks and leaving, you know, effigies of dead crows there too.
Yeah, I can say that, yeah, we had some jokers in school. It was the same. I was kind of one of the... mostly because if you joke about stuff, you don't have to bother concentrating on the class. Oh, good. I'm glad you can hear fine. Is the audio all okay? Everything look all right? Is the video stream coming through crisp or anything? Is it getting all boxy and blocky or whatever? You are my eyes and ears on the other end, Daisy. You are my eyes and ears on the other end. But I mean it by the title. I'm here till you don't need me, so if you'll go to sleep, let me know. And I'll come off. But I'll be back on in the morning to keep you company then. You and me, mate. The least I can do is try and make you forget the room that you're in. You know? I'm gonna have to deal with this. It's probably gonna do my head in when it catches on the headrest of the chair. But always confuses me that it's backwards. Yeah, that's weird. But I keep catching this with the peak of it, and it was doing my head in. So
it's just like a little too much. So alarmed by his son's behavior, Herb's father arranged for a psychiatric evaluation during Herb's teens. Good on Dad. Usually we don't hear this. We just hear the parents ignoring this, so that's good at least. And he was a doctor, so that makes sense. And the doctors diagnosed Herb with paranoid schizophrenia, as well as antisocial personality disorder. So, you know.
Oh, so he's got a full bag, like. He had a full bag. Like... when people say, if only the signs were there. Like, the real test when it comes to the quality will be when we jump into game, because obviously there's a limitation on what I can stream out to you guys because of my internet here at the minute. Hopefully, the end of this month that should be solved, and I'll be able to just check out the reason. Like the reason this stream is at 1080p is partly so that you guys could kind of keep up. Anyone that, and like with Daisy being on her phone, this being a 1080p stream makes it a lot easier for her phone to create it. But also, my internet is kind of limiting that. In general, my internet kind of limits that. So, at the minute, as soon as they let me have full dual fiber, which should be the end of the month, it's. My address already got put up for it, but we'll just have to wait and see. And once I've got that, I'll have like gigabit internet, so I'll be able to just pump out whatever quality, you know. At the minute, I have to throw down at 14, but once I've got the internet, I'll just be able to throw it at the 50k bit rate that YouTube gives. So I'll then just stream it clean in 1440p, and then obviously YouTube can downscale it to 1080p for me then. I think that's going to be the best option. But yeah. And if we're gaming in a bit and things get a little bit choppy or something, it's just because this 5070 Ti is really, really, really pushing the boundaries of my little A380. I don't know how well you're hearing background noises and stuff from this mic, because I've got the windows wide open and stuff, so I'm trying to... I've got the Windows little mic spec thing, which does seem to be really good, like, so... There is that. So I've got that. We'll just have to see how it goes. I'm hoping for Windows to give me a split for the headphones, and then I can change some of the jank there, and it'll mean that I can have clearer audio coming from my gaming rig, because at the minute it's a little bit blown out, the audio, like, so you'll notice in games later when there's explosions and stuff, it's very blown out. But I've tried to work around that because of, I don't know what's causing the audio issue, but it's got to be something to do with how janky how janky it is that I'm going around the houses for it, like, so probably something to do with that. Anyways, back to Chris.
Nurture. There's both going on here. He's got an excuse, but also not okay. It's not an excuse.
But yeah, Daisy, I would recommend Chris. Like, I think you'd like her.
Doing horrible things, you know. But at least, you know, they nipped it in the bud. Great, he's gonna get some medication maybe, and he'll be great, right? Right? No. We wouldn't be here talking if that was the case. So having these disorders meant that Herb might suffer delusions or extreme paranoia and had a diminished sense of empathy or regard for social norms. So something quite literally
why
out
is
of his
this weird?
control. So again, I'm not going to give him anything, but there's something that he can't control, on his own at least, without therapy or medication.
Why does the mic feel weird in that position? Because it is weird in that position, it's the wrong way around. But it's very specific.
The big issue, because it could have been a different story if he actually got
I built my setup to a budget. Everything fits perfectly, but
did not. And instead, he was eventually just
perfectly
returned to school.
Sorry, Chris.
He didn't know what's going on. He's got a fucked up brain, and they're just like, he'll be all right. So for a brief period, Herb's behavior improved enough to appear.
Right, so this guy's like pissing on fucking people's desks and stuff, and all kinds of shit, yeah, and they just sent him back to school. I feel like you're asking for it at that point, you know?
Socially acceptable, and he managed to...
I apologize, I'm going to be smoking right now.
However, his reputation had already been tainted by his earlier outbursts and macabre interests. And classmates shunned him, remembering the boy who toyed with dead creatures and caused classroom disruptions. So
I'm going to try and do as little of it on screen as possible.
During his late teens, you have the nature where it's like he can't help but have these awful disorders that he can't help And then there's the nurture, which is like,
I mean, you get to see more of the video as well.
He's not
It's a
being
vape.
treated for
It's a
this.
vape.
And he's just kind of being thrown to the wolves in a very vulnerable, fucked up state. Again, I am by no means justifying what he's going to do in the future, because I think he should burn in hell. But when you're a kid, hopefully you can get that help. And this kid did not get any meaningful help, and I'll leave it at that. It's part of the reason why I actually like looking into these cases, because I like looking at the psychological aspect and nature versus nurture and how they were raised and what caused it and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes there's just a tiny little inkling of sympathy here and there when they're like kids and they can't do anything about it, but it's all gone when they're adults. You learn societal norms, and you might suffer with these kinds of things, but unless you get help.
Oh, there's my face.
I don't know what you can do. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a stupid YouTuber. But Herb, like many other serial killers, had
right
those
here.
early warning signs that are almost all there for most cases we go through.
Back to the video.
And that is obsession with urination or wetting the bed.
What did I miss? Anything? Is he still just obsessing about piss? Is that what we're on to? How do you go from obsessing about piss to becoming a serial killer?
Volatile emotional outbursts. All we're missing at this point is arsony, basically.
But don't you worry, Daisy. Don't you worry.
Such
We'll get
behavior
into
was
some
often
gaming soon.
quietly swept under the rug. Different time. So Fred Baumeister was a troubled young man.
We may pause this story and come back to it.
A skill he would later use to hide far.
I know I keep pausing the video, but I'm just trying my best to at least it gives some sort of input to the stream. I want you to know that I'm not trying to steal content here. I'm literally just watching this and letting Daisy watch along with me, pretty much. And then we might pause this and come back to this as the reaction part of the content, because I need to rest because of my neck and stuff. But hopefully Daisy over there is comfortable. And yeah, let's go. I mean, we've got a chat rate of 1. It went up to 2 for a bit. I don't know how it went up to 2, but it went back down to 1. So yeah, I guess you stopped chatting, Daisy. Ooh. Terrible. You're supposed to be keeping me company here. Do you know what I mean? I don't think you think this stream's for you.
Darker impulses, knowingly, and this is where we get into the he knows what he's doing is wrong. That's wrong, creepy. And that's terrible, and that makes you evil. So after high school, Herb's attempts at higher education and steady employment were checkered. And he would enroll in Indiana University in 1965, but would drop out after 1 semester. And he returned to IU in 1967, where he would
I'd remember to turn off my specs and stuff while I game. I don't read it while I'm gaming. My bad. Yeah, keep it up, keep it low. We've got down to a 0. Goddamn chat of 0. What are you doing to me, woman?
And during this period, in November of 1971,
yeah, but YouTube can't see you. Can't see you chatting away. We're on a fucking chat rating of 0. How great is that?
Smart and patient woman, which
I kind of lost track of what's going on here. Have you been paying attention? All I know is there's some dude that obviously is going to become a serial killer. They always start off weird, like really weird, like extremely noticeable weird. Have you not ever noticed that? Do you know what might be fun? We can come back to this. Where are you seeing this? Like what? Oh, see, chat rated up to 2. Like, look, a beer. I have like, specs for the chat. So I've got a concurrent viewers of 2. That's because my other account is in here with us. That Trip Boomers isn't there. Yeah, he's a psycho basically. You enjoy this, or do you want something a little light-hearted? First to react to, so I can find some flat Earth content. Takes one to know one. I'm a little bit scatty. I can't lie. This is the warm-up to to gaming. Oh, chat rating 3, let's go. You're responding to me. Look, it took some effort. I've made that way too loud. Now that the mic's back at my face, that's better. At least I know that if I'm leaning over the top of it, it's not too loud, if you get me. That's probably still too loud, a little bit. That's probably a bit better. I've got a bit. The problem is I've got a boomy voice, and it is what it is. So it's one of those things, Daisy.
You needed to be if you were with this guy, and notably a fellow young conservative. So the two had bonded in part over working together at the university's Young Republicans Club. And to Julie and others, Herb could seem eccentric, but essentially harmless. So nobody really saw those red flags because nobody knew about these outbursts that happened.
You wanted me to play it. My bad.
It's not like he was posted online or anything. If he was able to quite literally shove all that under the rug. So they would settle into a home in an Indianapolis suburb and would go on to have 3 children together in the coming years. But Herb's personal eccentricities did not disappear during this time. Because it was only 6 months into the marriage, his mental health faltered very badly. And he became so depressed and erratic that his father had him committed to a psychiatric hospital for about 2 months in 1972. Quote, he was hurting and needed help, unquote. Julie later explained of that period. So again, at least he's getting help at this point that he really didn't get as a kid. So Herb would recover enough to assume a normal life. But he continued to exhibit unusual behavior and struggled to hold jobs.
You girl's a fucking weird one. It's like, that psycho-looking motherfucker over there, god damn. I'm going to be having myself some 3 kids with him. He likes the smell of my piss. It's such an attractive quality.
Similar to him dropping out all the time, he just got tired of stuff really fast, and that could be very much a part of the disorders he already has. And
it's like I remember the classic Ted Bundy movie. Obviously, Ted Bundy is apparently had some charisma and stuff. And don't get me wrong, in the movie, it kind of gave that a little bit, but it also pointed out how fucking weird he was, just in general. Fucking goddamn in general, how weird he was, right? And when you actually see pictures of him in general, everyone said he was a handsome bloke, but really? Do you really think that? Or is he just not bad looking for a bit of a sack, or, you know? Cameraman's fucking being a lazy bastard today, I tell you. Jesus, keep up, mate. Keep fucking up, right? I'm gonna fucking make you chase me. Dickhead. Come on, over here. Fucking hell. Make the motherfucker work, you know? Work for your money. Cost me a whole, what was it, like 30 quid? So, yeah. I mean, my cam's at 1080p anyway, so it's part of the reason why it's not a full screen. Right. Let's get back to it.
That he just thought he was too good to be a part of anything that was going on in society. Alright, so I, much like yourselves, like to consume true crime content, believe it or not. And sometimes I do that by watching documentaries. Indianapolis Star newspaper, and later landing a position at the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which was BMV. And at the BMV, Herb initially impressed colleagues with his strong work ethic, but his bizarre conduct soon resurfaced. Because, see, again, this guy didn't last long. And people would start to notice that Herb had a dark, offbeat sense of humor and a tendency to flout norms.
More of it.
At one point, he sent his coworkers an inappropriate Christmas card showing himself and another man dressed in drag, which is like, today, it's like we, you know.
Little tickle,
but in
little
the
tickle.
1960s,
The chat rating's gone down to 1 again. You are goddamn slacking, woman. Right? Your problem's in your neck, not your fucking thumbs. Get to typing. I've seen you. You can fucking type like Vicky Pollard can talk. So, a bit so fucking lazy. Feeling sorry for yourself because you're in hospital. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible. Sorry, Chris. As you were saying.
So the prank did not go over well in the conservative office environment, shockingly. So as time went on, Herb grew domineering and aggressive.
I'm almost done, and then I'll shrink that back down.
To get an ego.
Don't fret. I know I'm hiding.
When BMV officials discovered that someone had urinated.
Do you know what? Sometimes,
desk.
the cameraman, you need to fucking pay attention. Yeah, sometimes you don't need to be focusing. You know.
Like a dog.
Sometimes I'm still in frame. I'm good. This is good. You do not need to follow me over here.
Dog, as we will see. So Herb was caught having urinated on a letter addressed to the governor, and it was determined he was likely responsible for the earlier incident of urine left on his manager's desk.
I'm gonna have to sneak from the cameraman.
Shocking misbehavior obviously got Herb fired in 1985, and it was just a humiliating end to his government job, and it just foreshadowed the increasingly erratic pattern of Herb's adult life. So by his late 30s, Herb Baumeister was outwardly a married father of 3, but he was also a man grappling with weaknesses and concealed desires.
Yeah, but your head's on the top of your neck.
Herb began spending time in Indianapolis's gay nightlife scene after losing his BMV job. So on top of everything else, paranoid schizophrenia, personality disorder, he's also, by all accounts, gay, but he has to internalize it, whether it's...
We also do have Indiana Jones. I can't forget Indiana Jones. We have Indiana Jones. We can do a little bit of that. I am currently on a German battleship that is on the top of the Himalayas. Fucking surreal, guy. But when it's presented to you, with all the settings that I've got on this fucking game, like, oh my god. Chef's kiss, man. Anyways. But go on, Chris, as you were.
Just because of the time period, or that he's embarrassed, or because he has a family and he's cheating on his wife, all this stuff. So he's got a lot of things internally building up, which is really bad with somebody who tends to be violent and have outbursts.
But you're the sort of person that can watch a fucking TV program whilst texting someone. So you're literally texting the person you're watching. It's removing the multi-layered to it. You're only concentrating on the one place. So I'm kind of halving it. I mean, I'm literally giving you entertainment and interaction all at the same time. And, you know, I'm sure you got headphones in, watching your screen. You probably sometimes almost forget that you're in a hospital bed until you look up. That's the point. Isn't it really, like? As long as that is what's happening for you, that's all that matters, I suppose. But yeah, we've got Indiana Jones. I've been having fun with that. It's not as too strenuous on the old neck, like, but we can get a couple of drops of cod in, so that you know you can feed your habit. It might not be good gameplay, but it should be good quality.
So he would go out drinking at gay bars, likely exploring a side of himself that he kept hidden at home. And in 1985 and 1986, he had 2 run-ins with the law. One for a hit and run while driving drunk, and another for conspiracy to commit theft. And both charges were eventually dropped, but these incidences just show Herb skirting the edges of criminal behavior years before his killing spree
exactly.
began. So we already had this,
and I'm like narrowing the multitask. You're expected to do the same level of multitasking, but it's not actually 2 different conversations. Other than the fact that I keep talking over the top of Chris here, I know it's rude. I'm really, really sorry, and I really genuinely apologise for that freeze frame, Chris. It does make you look a little Gruffalo-ish. My bad. She a pretty lady. Pavel's a good guy. And a lucky motherfucker. Because, you know, she's attractive, but goddamn, she's fucking funny as fuck. Which adds to the attraction, but then obviously she's also a little bit Like, I don't mind the weird. But she does a lot of sort of ghost stuff with her friend Selena Spooky Boo. And it's very sort of Derek Okora ghost hunting. That's not the kind of ghost hunting I like. But I tell you what, yeah. I tell you who's ghost hunting. I mean, it's alright. It's kind of a bit of fun. But I tell you who's ghost hunting is I do actually genuinely like. And that is a channel called Watcher. They don't regularly find shit. Like, ever. But they are they're like a half one of them's a big time believer, calls himself a bit of a demonologist. They did in the earlier seasons anyway. And the other one is a full blown skeptic and takes the piss the entire time. And, you know, if there's a dodgy noise, you can almost always guarantee that there'll be a pan to Shane just going, right? He's the kind of guy that goes to these haunted places and like gets told to do like a 5-minute in pitch black, lying on the floor or something, and he'll fall asleep. You know, but it's fun. It's a good dynamic. It works well, and the thing is, it makes when they do actually find something that's a bit weird, it makes it far more believable. Like, there's one episode in this hospital bit where they whistle. I think it's Yankee Doodle or something, but they whistle it, but they stop halfway through, and the whistle gets finished. So that's weird, and they couldn't explain it. And even Shane couldn't explain it. Some of the stuff Shane can't explain, but he's still obviously full skeptic. And that's the stuff that he finds interesting. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's full skeptic, doesn't really believe in that stuff, but when things are genuinely unexplained, he finds it interesting. But as he puts it, it could literally be 1,000 different things before it's a ghost. That's how he puts it. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, like, but the what I'm trying to put across is this is not that kind of channel. Like, don't get me wrong, they have an entertainment value. They try and throw like high quality videos out and stuff. They've got their own streaming channel now and stuff like that. Like, but they never do that kind of crap, if you get me. Like, some of the stuff is just does stand out-ish. And they have had a couple of occasions, and it's like, take for example, they'll have gone to like 40 odd places, but there may have only been maybe 5 or 6 places that have actually been compelling evidence that's a bit weird and can't necessarily be explained straight away, you know. There's bits where you get replies, but it's kind of fun. They take a more fun approach at it, and it works because you get to see these places without people like sitting in a circle and having like some sort of seance, and like every single location that they go to and everywhere that they go, they find someone to talk to. They get replies and stuff. Like, it's not like that, which is good, and which is why I like it. That kind of thing gets a bit tiring for me. Like, So.
Or whatever, he got fired for that at least. And this is when friends and family
get back to
noticed
the video?
changes as well. Because at home in the suburban Steinmeier neighborhood, neighbors found her odd and unpredictable. Because it could be generous, in one moment handing out free magazines and concert tickets to neighbor kids, and then the next moment he'd get explosively angry over trivial things. So this is with the personality disorder.
Do you know what the best way?
Probably on top of
Best way to do it is
schizophrenia. And Julie later revealed.
Daisy. You know when you're replying to me, you chop your messages up. Like you could have sent, I can explain it, and then in the next message, someone in the next room. And when you said before again dot, just send that takes one to know one in a separate message. It's kind of cheating it a little bit, but there's only you in here, you know. Oh, we got a third view. Third views, not in at the minute, but a third view for a bit. And
intimate detail that spoke volumes about their marriages. Because in over 25 years together, she and Herb had only been sexually intimate only 6 times, and she had never even seen him fully nude. So this lack of physical closeness suggests Herb's sexual interests lay elsewhere. As we know, I mean, he liked to go to gay bars. I can safely assume was just using Julie as a beard, as the kids may say nowadays, which is basically a cover. Like, he wanted to appear like he had straight life, when in actuality he was gay, and internalizing all sorts of horrible feelings, like the violent ones. Not that you're gay, that's totally fine. But in the 60s, it was a different story. So indeed, Herb was living a closeted life.
I find it like most of these, like, you know, like these old. Oh, we lost a view. It must have knocked itself out. Right. We're back in view. Let me just remind YouTube that I'm still here. It's not really minimized. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Oh, I think Daisy dropped out. She's left us, guys. She left us. Terrible. I'm hurt and appalled.
The appearance of a straight, conservative family man while secretly engaging with men at gay bars. So the conflict between his public persona and private desires would only intensify in the coming years, setting the stage for his double life as a serial killer. So by the late 1980s, Herb Baumeister seemed to find his footing as an entrepreneur, even as his personal oddities persisted. And in 1988, with financial help from his mother, Herb opened a thrift store called Save-A-Lot in Indianapolis. It's a great name, Herb. And Herb would just pour his energy into this store like he hadn't done with any other job before. And his hard work would pay off. Because Save-A-Lot was clean, well-organized, and stocked with quality used goods, quickly setting it apart from other
I do
thrift
not
shops.
believe Daisy's still with us, guys.
Success. And Herb's confidence would just grow from this, because it didn't take much for this guy's head to just blow up with ego. So over the next few years, he expanded, eventually operating 2, and by some reports 3, Save-A-Lot thrift store locations in the Indianapolis
Maybe she
area.
had to go to bed.
So with this business boom came a significant lifestyle upgrade. And in November of 1991, despite
just wait here for her to get back.
Herb and Julie made a bold purchase, which was a sprawling 18-acre estate in Westfield, just north of Indianapolis. And the estate, which Herb named Fox Hollow Farm, yeah, this is the place, featured a 1,000-plus square meter Tudor-style mansion completed with elegant features like stained glass windows, multiple fireplaces, and an indoor swimming pool. And the property was reportedly worth nearly $1 million, which was a testament to the outward success the Baumeisters projected. And to neighbors and friends, the Baumeisters family now seemed to be living the American dream. A booming business, a country manor home, and 3 happy children. and Julie continued to stand by Herb, working in business and raising their son and 2 daughters. So few could have guessed the turmoil and secrets that festered behind closed doors at Fox Hollow Farm. Because despite the beautiful new home and thriving stores, Herb's double identity was intensifying. And his co-workers and employees began noticing that their boss's behavior grew more volatile in the early 1990s. Because Herb would be absent from work for long stretches during the day without any sort of explanation and became increasingly irritable and erratic when present. And financial problems also started to mount. And by 1994, the Save-A-Lot enterprise was faltering because the second store had not replicated the success of the first. And debts were starting to pile up, and vendors were suing for unpaid bills. Guy pulled the trigger before he actually reached a state of success. It was all about image for Herb. He needed to have that manner, to have that outward appearance of being like the perfect American family, but in actuality it was much different. And under all this strain, Herb's marriage was deteriorating, to say the least. And in early 1991, and just months before buying Fox Hollow Farm, Herb had briefly moved out of the family home and even filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, which for Herb means he likes men and not women. But I don't think Julie knew that. Or maybe she did know that. I don't really know. Yet, he and Julie reconciled later that year, deciding to give the marriage another try while moving into the new Westfield estate. But still, the relationship remained very rocky, and Julie noticed Herb's mood swinging wildly. And former colleagues later described Herb as a, quote, perfectionist given to sudden unprovoked rages. Sounds awful, just recalling how the smallest thing could just set him off. And these fits of anger, just combined with Herb's secretive habits, made life at Fox Hollow Farm increasingly tense for his family. And Julie would later admit that her husband was becoming, quote, erratic and difficult to live with during this period. And crucially, Herb's hidden life continued alongside his family life. Because at night, or when his wife and kids were out of town, Herb frequented gay bars in downtown Indianapolis, introducing himself to strangers as Brian Smart. He even called himself Smart. He got to make up a name for himself, and he called himself Smart. What a f***ing dumbass. But during this time, he...
As somebody very, very proud of his own intelligence. A little over, I should probably shut up. Stop trying to sound smart. Sorry. Where I was going with it is a little overinflated ego, methinks.
Was living out urges he could not openly acknowledge in his conservative household. So this clandestine behavior just suggested that Herb felt he had to compartmentalize his identity. And the respectable heterosexual family man in one compartment and the gay man seeking anonymous encounters in another. And it is within this secret nocturnal world that Herb's darkest tendencies began to manifest. Because Herb's ability to maintain his facade of normalcy kept suspicions at bay for a while. Because by day, he was a store owner and dad driving his kids to school, and at night, he prowled gay bars at night with the fake name, Brian Smart. So he just straddled these two worlds, and for a time, he managed to keep each from discovering.
It'd be hard freaking work, that man. I couldn't be a closet gay man. Oh, fucking hell no. Having to keep a family afloat, and then, like, as soon as it's got dark, throw on the pink cape, like, go hunting for that, like, it just sounds like a headache. Anyway.
The other, and in hindsight, the contradictions in Herb Baumeister's life were very stark, because he lived in a mansion, yet his businesses.
It's always why I've always been faithful. I just can't be. I couldn't be arsed with the freaking headache of it. Do you know what I mean? Hooking up with other people. Fucking hell. It's bad enough having one, like, having a conversation with another fucking 2 or 3 people whilst you're dating someone. Fuck no. I can't be arsed, no. That's why I've always been faithful. Because I can't be arsed. Hey, look. however it works, eh?
Were verging on bankruptcy, and he presented as a devoted husband, yet had...
I'd like to point out, even if it's offered to me on a freaking plate, still can't be asked. Can't be asked with the hassle that follows it. Can't be asked with having to remember to not say something. Do you know what I mean? I'm lazy when it comes to the truth and stuff, because you don't have to think about the truth. It happened, so you remember it. Lies, it takes effort, man. You have to remember who you've lied to and what you've lied to them about. It's like, I can't deal with that one. Anyways, back to the horrors of Fox Hollow Farm serial killer.
Almost no physical intimacy with his wife, and, cheated on her with another man, and he championed family values in public, yet spent his free hours cruising gay clubs in secret. And friends and family who knew Herb in the early 90s would later struggle to reconcile the duality that they observed. So by the early 1990s, gay men in Indianapolis were quietly vanishing without explanation. And in May of 1993, the trend became alarming, because one by one, young men who frequented Indianapolis gay bars were reported.
I'm not being funny, but he looks a bit fruity, like. I can't lie. Sorry if anyone's watching this video and it looks like you fella. Or vice versa. He does look a little fruity.
Missing. And at first, these disappearances attracted little public attention, because there was no bodies immediately found, just men who went out for the evening and never returned home. And within the LGBTQ+ community, word spread that something was terribly wrong. And amid this backdrop, Herb Baumeister was about to begin his killing spree in earnest. So investigators now believe Herb's murderous activity started around the 1980s, possibly as early as the mid-80s, and then escalated in the 1990s. So authorities suspected that Baumeister may have been an uncaught serial killer known as the I-70 Strangler, which we've briefly talked about in one of my 3-part video series, but I feel like I should do like a full-blown video on that person, which could have been Herb Baumeister. Because throughout the 1980s, between 1980 and 1991...
Could have been. Be sure to catch that video. This girl's freaking awesome. She does a load of research and stuff for these videos, so make sure you go give Call Me Chris. Follow all her accounts. And also go give Umperville a follow, because he's weird and wonderful. They're an awesome couple, and they're worth your attention.
At least 11 men were found strangled and dumped in rural areas near Interstate 70 in Indiana and Ohio. And these victims were mostly young, gay men who had last been seen at Indianapolis gay bars. And their not clothed or partially clothed bodies were discarded off highways in streams or ditches. And the killings mysteriously stopped in 1991, the same year Herb purchased Fox Hollow Farm. And in 1998, investigators noted that once Herb had his secluded 18-acre property, he no longer needed to risk dumping bodies along the interstate. That's the theory. And there's reasons why...
It was a fair theory, do you know what I mean? All of it, the bodies showing up all the way, and then all of a sudden they just straight stop at the exact same time that the guy bought a farm. Obviously that farm is just literally littered with poor victims, it's fairly obvious. It's not rocket science, that one, is it? We're gonna have to shut these windows soon because we'll get full of bugs. Hopefully Daisy will be back with us soon. You never know.
We can't confirm this, but I'll get into that later. But if all true, Herb Baumeister's murder career had begun well before he ever killed on his own property. It is possible he honed his methods on those highway killings, and then, once he had Fox Hollow Farm as a private murder ground, he brutally reached new heights. So by 1993, Baumeister was actively hunting victims in Indianapolis, specifically the Indianapolis gay bars. And he typically targeted men in their teens to 20s or even 30s, though one victim was as old as 46. And usually, Herb's victims were white males. And Herb's MO was both cunning and predatory.
So the guy had a type.
He would spend the evening cruising popular gay bars like the 501 Club or others along Massachusetts Avenue, and he presented himself as a friendly, fun-loving man.
He'd be like, God damn.
And smart. And Baumeister would single out
I need to cut that dude's throat.
often someone who was alone. and
I shouldn't joke about this shit. I do apologise to anyone watching back, but hey. So there's a quote that of comedy comes from misery or whatever. But yeah. Anyways.
Strike up a conversation. And he had a practical charm and was generous with free drinks as well. And eventually, he'd invite the target out to his home, mentioning the indoor pool or promising a private after-party at his estate.
Be careful.
And the offer must have sounded tempting. A trip to a mansion with a apparently friendly, successful man. I mean, sounds like a dream, right? Never go to a second location with a stranger. Because, tragically, accepting the offer was a fatal mistake for many young, unfortunate men. Because at Fox Hollow Farm, Herb had carefully prepared a killing ground that hid behind the trappings of luxury. And the indoor swimming pool area in his mansion was decorated with mannequins posed in festive positions. Psychotic. As if a never-ending party were happening. This is... yeah, it is so disturbing to even think about. Like,
that's weird as fuck, man. So we had like an indoor swimming pool with a load of mannequins posed in festive positions. Now, the first thing that popped into my head was like they're all like set up like it's like a fucking orgy and they're bumming each other or whatever. But I think it's just literally they were just dressed up like people from a party. So you walk in and you're just like joined by a load of mannequins. Anyone that ever watched Doctor Who when they were a kid like knows that shit's creepy as fuck.
It sounds made up. It sounds like horror, but it's real, and it is horrifying. The specific details suggest Herb's peculiar sense of atmosphere and perhaps an attempt to put his guests at ease or disorient them when they first walk in or close. They could see maybe shadows, and they could see that maybe there's others people in here, so it's chill, it's fine, everything's fine. And
oh no, they are like posing like creepy posing.
Store mannequins, and once alone with his victim, Herb would initiate sexual activity and introduce a dangerous twist. Because he loved erotic expression. Of course he loved this. And according to later testimony from a survivor, Herb, known as Brian, would suggest they choke each other during intimate acts to heighten the pressure. And again, if you're in a consenting situation, which doesn't seem that crazy, I guess, whatever you're into, I don't know.
Flags have never been more red.
It's so incredibly sad for these men. I can't even imagine the fear that would come upon them, like, during these acts. It's so incredibly...
Right, so these guys walk into this dude's gaff, right? He's invited them round. He looks a bit weird anyway. Then he's invited them round. They've been invited into his indoor pool area, which is scattered with store mannequins naked in sexual like poses, and stood around the pool and stuff with trees, palm trees and that. And then he pulled this weird crap. Would you not leave? Or at least attempt to by this point? Like, you're not going to stick around if you walk in, this is what you see. And then the guy's suggesting choking each other out whilst you're shagging. That's a situation that I'd much rather wash my hands off and go find something else. You know? But hey, that's me. I'm different, I suppose. Uno momento. I'm going to have to get the windows before I've got the entire neighbourhood of insects flying around my head. Turn the big light off as well. Turn the big light off. And then I'll be better lit and more pronounced for you lovely people out there. All of me of you. All me of you. Chat rating at 0 because Daisy's done the terrible and left us. She's bloody left us, you know, guys. It's absolutely terrible. Terrible.
Horrible. But this particular practice involves temporarily cutting off oxygen for arousal.
I let her off because she's having like fucking needles in her head and shit like that this evening, so, you know, she's probably going to have an operation tomorrow, so I'll let her off a bit, I guess. But we will be here for the entire time that she needs us to be here to keep her entertained. Unless I need to do something, which I don't tend to. I will probably be back in the morning and on most of tomorrow for the same reason. So if you get this far through watching the stream back afterwards, feel free to come join us tomorrow. It's all to keep Daisy company. She's having to deal with some crap, like, and she's a mate. And this is the easiest way for it to be that I'm talking, because it's easier for my neck than typing. And she gets to type, and she gets to be entertained. And she says that I'll be back at ASAP. Jesus, woman. You left like freaking 20 minutes ago. But it's all good.
And it's a risky act, even
Because we'll be
when
gaming
consensual.
after. We will be gaming
For Herb,
after.
however, it was more than a game. It was his means to a kill, and he would encourage the victim to let him tighten something around their neck, such as a pool hose or a belt. And this was under the pretense of a consensual kink. And then, at the crucial moment, Herb would refuse to release his grip. And he would derive gratification from the act of doing this to someone until they were dead, just exerting total control over the victim's life. And detectives later concluded that Baumeister likely murdered his victims right there by the pool, where the sound of struggle would be muffled by the walls and water's acoustics. And Herb was a very hands-on killer, literally feeling the life drain from his victims as part of his sadistic satisfaction. And after the victim stopped breathing, Baumeister set about the grim task of disposing of the body. And as we know, he had 18 acres of isolated land at his command, and he used it to its full advantage. And under the cover of darkness, Herb would take his now-deceased victim out into the wooded sections of his property behind the house. And there, he engaged in what investigators believe were post-mortem, quote, rituals to prevent identification of the victim, in case they actually were dug up. And evidence suggests Baumeister dismembered some victims and burned many of the bones using the farm's remote grounds as his personal dumping site. Just an absolute fucking monster. And years later, forensic teams would find shards of charred bone and ash in fire pits and scattered through the dirt, indicating attempts to cremate the bodies in open air. But Baumeister was thorough, and he likely crushed some of the larger bones to fragments and even pulled out some of the teeth from skulls to hinder identification. And one investigator learned through a confidant of Herb's that he allegedly had a habit of using particular tools to extract his victims' teeth, then tossing the teeth down a hallway like tic-tacs in a grotesque display of triumph, which is beyond
vile, man.
Words fucked up. It's vomit-inducing, it's sick. But all these details just paint a picture of a man reveling in the aftermath of murder, taking steps to ensure his victims became anonymous piles of forgotten bones. And neighbors would never report anything terribly amiss. Baumeister orchestrated his crimes around his family's schedule. Julie and the children were nearly always away when the murders took place, because during summer breaks, Julie would take the kids to visit her mother at a lake cottage in northern Indiana, leaving Herb alone at Fox Hollow Farm for weeks at a time. And those lonely stretches of summer were Herb's opportunity to hunt. Investigators later determined that each known victim's disappearance coincided with times when Herb's wife and children were out of town. Which, again, is just so sick to know that your husband and your father was doing this kind of stuff when you were gone. Oh, God, I just don't know how you how do you even get over that? Or you probably don't at all. And on some occasions...
I'd like to be clear, I'm not angry that Daisy's not here at the minute. I mean, she's in hospital, so it could be for any reason. I mean, it could literally just be that, you know, she's having a phone call. Her daughter is with her mother and stuff at the moment, so maybe she's having a phone call before bed, or maybe she has to deal with a doctor or whatever. She said she'll be back ASAP, so it is what it is. But we're here for her. So I'll just be here for when she gets back. I'll probably have to fill her in what's going on here. I'm trying not to just half pay attention, because obviously I keep cutting it. It's my bad.
Likely also exploited.
Again, like, if you want to watch the video properly, go Chris's channel, like and subscribe her. Call me Chris. She's fucking legend. She does all sorts of videos like this. And again, like I said, go join her fella's channel as well, Umperville. It's an absolute fucking legend. Weird and wonderful, as I put it. They're both awesome, great couple. Worth a subscribe, worth a follow, and go like their videos, man.
Business trips or claimed to be working late to cover his lethal outings. This pattern just shows deep calculation, like murder in the first degree. He's always planning it out. But Baumeister just compartmentalized his life so effectively that he could strangle a man to death in his pool one night, then cheerfully host a family barbecue in the same spot the next week, as if...
It's fucking weird as fuck, man. The thought of the mentality that would have to go into someone to be able to just switch off like that. Like, switch off to, like, any kind of moral fibre. Just switch off. It baffles me, man. Fascinating in its own way as well, though.
Nothing happened. Just no sense of remorse. So from 1993 to 1995, the disappearances continued uninterrupted, and young men would vanish from downtown Indianapolis and were never seen alive again. And no bodies were immediately found, as we know, so the link between these missing persons was not obvious. But within the gay community, fear was mounting, because someone who met men in bars was preying on them, and police seemed slow to catch on. And although Herb seemed to really hone in his perfect killing scheme, mistakes were starting to be made, and close calls were bound to accumulate. Because the more he killed, the greater chance that eventually something or someone would blow his cover. And by late 1994, events were set in motion that would lead to Herb Baumeister's downfall. So the known victims of Herb Baumeister's Foxhole Farm murders were all men who vanished in the mid-1990s, leaving behind distraught families and friends. And it took years for investigators to piece together their identities from the bone fragments found on Baumeister's property. And as of 2025, 10 victims have been positively identified, and several more are suspected. And these men's lives and tragic ends illustrate the horrific scope of Baumeister's crimes. And I want to go over these key victims and their fates, as understood from the investigation. So first we have Roger Allen Goodlett, who was 33 years old, and was a resident of Indianapolis. And Roger was reported missing on July 22nd, 1994. And he was last seen leaving a downtown gay bar, heading out with a man who introduced himself as Brian Smart. And Roger's disappearance deeply alarmed his family. And frustrated with the police's slow progress, Roger's mother and friends plastered the city with missing persons posters, and Roger's case would become pivotal, because a friend of his was turned amateur sleuth under the alias Tony Harris ultimately would help crack the mystery. But sadly, Roger never came home, and years later, authorities confirmed that some of the remains recovered at Fox Hollow Farm belonged to Roger Goodlett. And he is believed to be one of Baumeister's victims, strung on the estate in the summer of 1994. And then there's Alan Wayne Broussard, who's 28 years old. And Alan was also from Indianapolis and had disappeared on June 6th of 1994. And like Roger, Alan was last seen at an Indianapolis gay bar and never returned. And Alan's mother grew concerned and also reached out for help. And she and Roger Goodlett's mother enlisted the aid of a private investigator because the police weren't doing shit. And this private investigator was Virgil Vandegrift. And it wasn't until the Fox Hollow Farm bones were analyzed that the truth would emerge. But Alan Broussard's remains were found among the thousands of fragments, confirming he had fallen victim to the killer as well. And then there was Johnny John Bayer, who was 20 years old, and one of the youngest identified victims. Johnny Bayer was an Indianapolis man who went missing on May 28, 1993.
You know, like, small victories, at least, you know, it's not great, like, but, let me see if I can just brighten up. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? At least 20's, like, one of the youngest, you know. Small mercies, poor chaps, man.
He was reportedly working at a fast food restaurant at the time, and Johnny said goodbye to his mother on his way to work one day and then just vanished. And for years, his family heard nothing, and only a single rib bone of Johnny's was eventually recovered at Fox Hollow Farm, found among the thousands of pieces of remains. And that rib would be DNA matched to Johnny in the late 1990s, finally giving his mother an answer. And in a heartbreaking statement, Johnny's mother said in 1999, "One rib bone. Even though they gave me his rib bone and we had the services, it's not real to me. I can still see him someday coming up to the door." And her hope for her son's return had been cruelly destroyed by the confirmation of his death. And Johnny Bayer's name was among the first confirmed in the investigation. And he represents the many young men whose lives were cut short just as they were starting out. And then there was Richard and Douglas Hamilton, who was also 20 years old. He was also a local to Indianapolis, and his last sighting was on July 31st of 1993. And little is publicly recorded about the circumstances of Richard's disappearance, but by September 1996, Richard Hamilton's remains had been confidently identified by forensic anthropologists sorting through all the bones found at Fox Hollow Farm. And then there was Stephen Sperlin Hale, who was 26 years old, and vanished on April 1st, 1994. He was also from Indianapolis and was working as a custodian at a restaurant at the time. And on the night of April 1st, he was last seen in Indianapolis Central Library, a known gay meetup spot. But unfortunately, his bones would also be analyzed from Fox Hollow Farm, and it would be confirmed that he had been killed on the property. And then there was Manuel Manny Resendez. And Manny was a bit different from the other victims in that he was from Lafayette, Indiana, which was about an hour north from Indiana, and he was reported missing in early August of 1983. And for decades, Manny's fate was unknown, and in a testament to dogged work of forensic experts, Manuel's remains were finally DNA confirmed in 2024, nearly 30 years after he vanished. But at least his family could get some semblance peace in knowing that he was found, but obviously it was still horrible. But this would make headlines in 2024, bringing closure to the Resendez family after so many years. And then there was Jeffrey Allen Jeff Jones, and he was also an Indianapolis man who went missing on July 6, 1993, at the age of 31. And he was suspected early on as a possible victim of the Fox Hollow killer via earlier identification, but it wasn't until May of 2024 that Jeff's remains were conclusively identified through genetic genealogy. And then there was Michael Frederick Mike Kern, who was 46 years old, one of the oldest victims. And he would go missing on March 31st, 1995. And Mike's disappearance came relatively late in Baumeister's spree, and it suggests Herb had not yet been deterred even after a suspicious incident in 1994. And we'll say more on that soon because it is f***ed up. And then there was Alan Livingston, who was 27 years old, and he was last seen getting into someone's car in downtown Indianapolis in August of 1993. And Sharon, Alan's mother, began to suspect that he was among the Fox Hollow Farm victims when news broke about Baumeister in 1996, but she would continue to hold on to hope that her son would maybe return. And she allegedly kept her home phone line connected for decades in the hope that Alan might call.
As a parent, like, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine one of my boys just like going missing. It's the kind of thing that I wouldn't like, you know, wish on my on my enemy, you know. I mean, obviously the victims themselves have gone through went through some fucking shit, like, but I feel the real pain starts with everyone that's left behind, you know.
Which is so
Go back to the
heartbreaking
video.
because this was the only number he would have known to call. But his remains would finally be identified in 2023. And then there was Daniel Thomas Holloran, whose age is unknown. And Daniel wasn't reported missing nor even suspected as a victim. Yet his remains were discovered amongst the bones of the Fox Hollow farm. And then there was Jerry Williams Comer, who was 34 years old, and he would go missing on August 8, 1995. And while Jerry was confirmed to have been a victim of Baumeister, this discovery was not from the Fox Hollow farm remains. His vehicle was discovered after his disappearance, and he fit the victim profile as a young gay man in Indianapolis. But these names, excluding Jerry, are only the identified victims from Fox Hollow Farm. In total, more than 10,000 bone fragments were recovered on the property, which represents an estimated 25 or more individuals that Baumeister may have murdered, which is sickening. And that means over a dozen victims remain unidentified to this day, and their families might still not know what became of their loved one who disappeared in the 1980s or 1990s. And among those still unnamed could be some victims of the I-70 Strangler killings that are now attributed to Herb. Again, unconfirmed, but it's likely, it seems. And it's also possible Baumeister killed additional men whose remains have not been found at all. And if he chose to dump a body elsewhere, or if some evidence on the farm was completely missed. But the full extent of his carnage might never be known, but authorities firmly believe at least 25 murders can be laid on Herb Baumeister's feet. And the impact of these murders on the Indianapolis LGBTQ+ community was profound and traumatic. Because during the early 1990s, as gay men kept going missing, fear spread that a serial killer was specifically targeting their community. And many also felt that the police were not taking the disappearances seriously enough because the victims were gay. And at the time, relationships between law enforcement and LGBTQ+ citizens were often strained by prejudice and mistrust. And a former publisher of a local gay magazine, Josh Thomas, voiced the community's frustration bluntly, saying, quote, "If somebody were killing cheerleaders at a suburban high school, nobody would rest until the killers were found," unquote. And he would tell the press this in 1996. But because it was all...
For back then, he probably had a point, to be honest. Like, for back then, he probably had a point. Like, late 80s, early 90s. Like I said, I grew up through the 90s. The back end of the 90s was all good. But very early 90s, 80s, not so great. But yeah. So he probably had a point with that statement.
Only gay men, the urgency was lacking. And families of missing gay men sometimes encountered apathy or harmful assumptions. And police might suggest that a missing man had simply run off to, quote, live the gay lifestyle somewhere else, rather than treat it as a potential crime that it was. And in Indianapolis, this dynamic led several families to take matters into their own hands, hiring private investigator Virgil Vandergrift.
Also, I'd like to point out that I'm in the UK, and the US was a little bit different to the UK back then, especially around gay people, and they were a bit harsh. I mean, don't get me wrong, so were we. But I'm pretty sure it got dealt with here earlier.
To look for their loved ones. And as mentioned, Vandergrift quickly noticed the pattern. Multiple gay men disappearing in the same area in a short time frame. The amount of community pressure eventually forced the police to acknowledge the possibility of a serial killer to do their fucking job. But sadly, by the time the case broke open, many lives had already been lost. But the fact that the members of the LGBTQ+ community banded together to demand action was significant, and ensured that these victims were not forgotten and helped bring a killer spree to an end. So let's get into that. So throughout the early 1990s, as young men vanished in and around Indianapolis, their families grew desperate for answers. And missing persons reports piled up, but initial police response was sluggish and fragmented. And part of the challenge was that multiple jurisdictions were involved. Some men disappeared from Indianapolis, while others from surrounding areas or even other cities, like Lafayette, in the case of Manuel. And without bodies or crime scenes, police departments had little evidence to go on, and the pattern tying the cases together wasn't immediately recognized or cared about clearly. And additionally, the aforementioned fact that many victims were gay may have contributed to a lack of urgency on the part of the investigators, who assumed the men just might have left town voluntarily. So 1993 turned into 1994, and the list of missing persons just started to lengthen, and it became harder to ignore that something sinister was afoot. And a major turning point in the investigation came thanks to the determination of a private investigator and a brave survivor. So former Marion County Sheriff's Detective Virgil Vandegrift had retired from law enforcement and started a private investigation firm. And in 1994, he was hired by the families of Roger Goodlett and Alan Broussard, just two mothers who refused to let their sons' disappearances be shrugged off. And Vandegrift took their concern seriously, like the police should have. And he began comparing notes with police and other families and realized at least 8 young men had gone missing under similar circumstances in a short span of time. So sensing the hallmarks of a serial offender, Vandegrift coordinated an informal task force. He and his associates visited the gay bars, distributed, quote, missing flyers, and interviewed patrons to gather any clues. And this grassroots sleuthing paid off, because they learned that many in the gay community felt a predator was lurking in their midst. And one name, or rather alias, would surface, and that was Brian Smart. Because some bargoers recounted encounters with a middle-aged man who called himself Brian, and who was friendly, if a bit odd, and who sometimes invited people out to his, quote, estate. And it sounded benign at first, but at least one man had a terrifying story about Brian Smart, and he lived to tell the tale. And that man is known by the pseudonym Tony Harris. And in 1994, Tony Harris approached authorities with a haunting account. He believed he had survived an encounter with a serial killer. And Tony was a good friend of Roger Goodlett, and after Roger vanished, Tony grew determined to find out what happened. So he spent time at the bars Roger used to frequent, on the lookout for any information. And in the course of this investigation of his own, Tony met a man calling himself Brian Smart. And Brian was sociable and allegedly said he was from out of town, temporarily living at a client's farm estate.
Oh, did you come back in?
One night, Brian invited
We
Tony
got a viewer.
to go for a swim at the place. And Tony accepted, hoping he might learn
No,
if
it's
Brian
fine,
was
it's
involved
fine.
in Roger's
If that's you, it's
disappearance.
fine.
Extremely
If it's not, guys, if there's someone other than Daisy here, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back in about an hour. Daisy's got to go have an MRI and stuff and I'll finish this off cam, so you guys could go watch the whole video if you want to finish off watching this. YouTube, call me Chris with a K. Let me show you. Right here, guys, right here. Call me Chris. 12.6 million subscribers. Go finish watching this video over there. She's got plenty. And this is Umperville. Her fella. He's weird and wonderful. You should go give him a follow as well. And yeah, I'll be back in an hour. We're gonna do some gaming, maybe some COD, some Helldivers, maybe some Indiana Jones, maybe. We'll see what Daisy fancies when she gets out of her MRI. Yeah, we're here for Daisy, and we'll be back in the morning as well, because she's going to be in then as well. So we've got to entertain her now, haven't we? So I'll be back in an hour. So thanks for coming in, and thanks for watching if you're watching the stream afterwards. and I'll be back in an hour. See you in an hour.